Hi everyone, today I'm going to talk about the film Citizen Kane, which is an American film produced in 1941 starring Orson Welles. We can see that a multimillionaire businessman, he had recently passed away, and his passing he was news in the entire country and even abroad. He was very rich and he was very powerful. And then we can see a little bit about his life since the beginning. He was a little boy. He is shown playing in the snow with a sled. And then his parents asked him to live with a sort of banker because it was found gold in a property belonging to his mother. And then this man, he would raise the boy and would make investments so the gold found in the property would always be profitable. And the boy would inherit this when he was 25 years old. And then we can see that, of course, he was being raised by his parents, and then a totally stranger said that he would raise him, and of course that he didn't like that, and he hit the man with the sled. Okay, years have passed, and the little boy was finally 25 years old, and then he inherited his money. Due to the careful and good investments of the banker, this little boy, who was now a 25-year-old man, he became very, very rich. And then part of his inheritance was many different companies in many different fields. But the boy, he was interested in the least profitable of them all, which was a newspaper. And then he worked closely in the newspaper. He made investments in the newspaper, even though he firstly lost money. And he raised in the newspaper world very quickly because he made the so-called yellow journalism. The journalism that manipulated the public opinion, the journalism that didn't have lots of principles, and he showed it to be a very unscrupulous businessman. And then he raised very, very fast. He made money with the newspaper after a while. He got closely involved with the politics. And he really didn't have any honesty in his business. He was unscrupulous. He did whatever that was necessary to get money and power. And then by manipulation of people, he got whatever he wanted. Then it's shown that he married a rich woman who was the niece of the President of the United States, and they had a son together. However, he met another woman, a younger woman, who became his lover, and she was an amateur singer. And then he was running for governor of his state. However, his opposer, he found out about the affair that this multimillionaire businessman was having. And then it was a huge public scandal, and he ended up losing the election. And then after this scandal, his wife divorced him, and after a short time, she passed away in a traffic accident together with their son. After a while, when the scandal settled down a little bit, this businessman, who is played by Orson Welles throughout most of the film, then he got married to his lover. And then he pushed her to have a career in opera because it would represent status for him to be married to an opera singer. But his second wife didn't have the talent or ambition to be an opera singer. Then one of his associates in the newspaper wrote a negative review about the opera debut of his wife, And then he dismissed his friend from the newspaper, but he allowed the negative review to be published. And of course that all this pressure to become an opera singer, it was really weighing down on his wife. And then she was very stressed. She begged him to leave this profession, that she didn't want to be an opera singer, but he only took that seriously when she tried to take her own life. Then he allowed her to give up her singing career. And then, as time passed, she became very much unhappy with this marriage and left him. And then years passed, and this multimillionaire businessman, he became more and more lonely. He had no family, he had no close friends. His empire was going well, but after a while he lost everything he had. He lived in a mansion that looked like a palace, but he had no one, and his finances started to go bad as he got older. And then we can see, as we have seen in the beginning of the film, that he passed away totally alone in his beautiful mansion. And then he said a final word, Rosebud. And then a reporter tried to investigate what Rosebud meant. And throughout the film, we can see that he didn't get to know what this word meant, because he tried to interview everyone who was close to this businessman, but it was hopeless. Nobody knew what Rosebud was. There were some theories, but nobody actually knew what it was. However, in the very end of the film, after the passing of this millionaire businessman, his belongings were being sorted and disposed of, and then we can see that it was burned in a kind of furnace, his old sled that he used in the childhood, the same sled that he was using the day he left his house to move in with the banker who raised him, and it was written behind the sled, Rosebud. And then, in the last minute of the film, we realize what it was about. This film is extremely famous and legendary. It brought problems to Orson Welles because this film is loosely based in the life of William Randolph Hearst, who was a very powerful newspaper mogul at the era of this film. He tried to boycott the film in many ways, and his second wife is closely associated with actress Marion Davies, who was successful during the silent era, and she was in the real life the lover of William Randolph Hearst for over 30 years. And even though this film was chosen by many critics many times as the best film ever made, it was a film that brought problems to the studio and to Orson Welles because of this comparison between the film, which was supposedly fiction, and the real life of William Randolph Hearst. However, it's a legendary film, it's a huge classic, and it really deserves all the praise it has had throughout the decades. Another point is that Orson Welles, he acted as the businessman throughout the film, except in childhood, because he was not a child. Then there was a boy who played the character. But as of 25 years old, until the end of the newspaper mogul life, it was all about Orson Welles playing the character, and he was only 26 years old at the time. However, he got to play the character of the millionaire mogul until he was very elderly, even though in real life Orson Welles was very old. It's a film that it's a reference to everyone who likes cinema, everyone who wants to know the power of media manipulation, the power of destiny over the lives of people. And the plot, it didn't get old, and actually it is more relevant than ever. That's all for now, folks. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you!